So here's the thing, we all have a natural tendency towards self righteousness and to be a little bit judgmental. I mean, we all have our internal critic, and yet oftentimes our internal critic is just as critical of others as it is of ourselves. And we have all of these concepts of how our lives should be, which is heavily influenced, I suppose, like things like, your social media news feeds and the culture that it is that we're living in that places a lot of value on aesthetics and on materialistic achievements and on, I suppose, the hedonic happiness, all of these things that we're told are going to make our life fulfilling, but which actually don't and are all a little bit vacuous. And I suppose I see so many courses out there talking about how important it is to be successful and how you can be happy all the time and really bolster your self esteem. And as I said, it's all very empty. I mean, if this was working, then a lot of people would be a hell of a lot more content with their lives. And the reality is that they're not. And in order for our lives to be a better place, we actually have to become a little bit more scrupulous with ourselves. We have to become a little bit more realistic about the way in which we self sabotage, the way in which we judge others, the way in which we stand in our own way when it comes to our relationships being a place of peace and happiness and joy. I mean, again, that whole self righteousness thing, we tend to want to kind of stick and adhere to our own perspective, and we tend to be very blinded to other people's point of view. And it's like we have to hold on to it so tightly, despite the fact that holding on to these rigid constructs is what causes us so much suffering. So to be able to resolve that, we need to be first of all aware of the stories that it is that we're telling ourselves about how life should be and how other people should be, and where we should be at, and challenge those a little bit and ask yourself, okay, how benevolent, how humanitarian is my mindset? Am I just being self-righteous because I'm afraid that if I admit any fault here, that the rug will be pulled out completely from under my feet? And oftentimes when you look inside, that's what you'll find the answer actually is. We create all these defense mechanisms. We kind of protect ourselves needlessly as a result of past experiences. And yet, we kind of project this protection onto so many aspects of our life. But what it ends up becoming is, in fact, a prison for us as opposed to a suit of armor. So we need to start breaking it down. We need to start looking at the ways in which we are our own worst enemies at time, to examine the stories that we tell ourselves, to examine the biases that tell us that we're right and that everybody else is wrong, to look at the ways in which we can be hypocritical, because oftentimes we judge others for what we can't actually recognize within ourselves. And the more we, I suppose, step away from that need for being right and step away from that self preservation, the more open we can be, the less rigid and fixed we are, the more reciprocal we can be in our relationships, the more loving we can be with others, the more compassionate we can be with ourselves and others. But it all starts with awareness, it all starts with recognizing the ways in which you have gone down the wrong rabbit holes looking for your happiness, and you have built up all of these defenses thinking that they were going to protect you, but ultimately which are just holding you back. So start asking yourself, okay, what are the ideas in my head that could possibly require challenging? What are the stories I tell myself about the way things should be? What am I so attached to that it is causing me to be rigid and unflexible? And meditation can really help with that, creating mindfulness can really help with that. And again, talking to somebody who can help you objectively examine yourself and then help you find ways in which you can be become more relationship focused, in which you can find ways to tap into your true essence as opposed to chasing materialistic and aesthetic goals that are really of no benefit to you whatsoever and that are somewhat vacuous, for want of a better word. But again, that you have been convinced are of benefit to you, because again, everywhere we go, we're bombarded with the story that, you know, we need to have our self-esteem bolstered, we need to be successful, we need to be confident, we need to look great, our jobs need to be great. And again, it's easy to see how we can become blinded to what is really important, and that is the ability to accept the self, the ability to be a decent human being for other people, to build strong connections, to be curious, to be creative, and to find what your true essence as a human being is. If this is something you're interested in doing a little bit of work on with me, get in touch with me on the website. It's fundamentals.ie. You'll also catch lots of content similar to this on my YouTube channel, which is Fiona Feely. So go check it out, subscribe, and let me know if there's anything specific you would like me to talk about.